The title of this video is Kendrick, Lamar and Drake's Synastry. So welcome to this video. My name is Joseph Banner. I'm an astrologer, and as you can see from the title, I'm going to talk about Kendrick, Lamar and Drake's Synastry chart in astrology to see how are these people actually working together. What kind of charts do they have individually, and what is this recent drama about that I heard about? Because this video is actually made upon a request. Somebody wanted me to talk about these two people, and I thought, well, since I keep seeing these posts on my feed about these people, I'm just gonna make a synastry about them. Now keep in mind, I don't know anything about what is actually going on. I just briefly, before making this video, checked online, and I saw there was some kind of beef between them. Apparently they don't like each other. There's some kind of ego conflict going on. I don't know what is going on. But I'm gonna just read what the Synastry says. So if you're interested into these cases, if you'd like to know more about how these rappers work together, I'm going to explain that throughout this reading. So let's begin, shall we? See here. Okay, so let's get me to the right. So this is their Synastry. Now, as you can see here, you have Kendrick in blue and Drake in red. So the first thing to read in any Synastry, and I always tell this to my clients if I do relationship chart readings, and by the way, if you're interested, you can book a relationship reading with me. So you can use this as an example of what a relationship reading with me looks like. Well, you look for conjunctions first. Conjunctions are the most important thing. And of course, as you can see here, I activate loads of the asteroids, which you find very prominent in these two figures. Both of them have very prominent fixed stars and asteroids. So if you are using astrology to look into a person's chart, please activate the fixed stars in the extended chart selection settings. If you're using astro.com, there is actually an additional setting which enables all the fixed stars without having to select one by one each. This is what you can see in purple on the outside. You have Sirius, which Drake has conjunction the moon, which is quite significant. You see this prominently in many musicians. Many rappers have Sirius conjunction the moon. Then you see Drake has Venus conjunction Aldebaran. And Aldebaran is the eye of a bull in 9 degrees of Gemini. This is also very typical if you have a musician to have Venus conjunction Aldebaran or anything else in Aldebaran. Many prominent figures, including celebrities, including Donald Trump, have prominent Aldebaran placements, because Aldebaran gives you success in communication. Success with songs, lyrics, poetry, writing, speaking. Because Venus is talents and skills. So anyways, moving on. You also have Drake, his ascendant conjunction Regulus. And Regulus is the heart of a lion. And then you have Kendrick Lamar having his ascendant conjunction Speaker, the Virgin. So you have many royal stars going on here. So I'm just going to talk about these placements, how they are working together. So first of all, we always start with the ascendant, because the ascendant is the most critical point in the synastry. So looking at this, you can see here that Kendrick Lamar in blue has his ascendant conjunction Speaker, the Virgin in Libra. And its conjunction the mythological object Poseidon, and this is in an exact conjunction with Drake's Sun conjunction Poseidon, which is very interesting, because you see Poseidon, of course, is just another object that you can find in astrology, which represents the blueprint of Neptune. As an archetype, Neptune rules fantasy, art, music, movies, entertainment, acting, which of course are all things that both of these figures are doing, which is why it's not surprising to see that Poseidon is prominent in both their charts, which is actually what brings them together. You see, these are very similar people. To have Poseidon on both the sun and ascendant of each respectively, that's pretty suspicious, if you ask me. That's pretty unusual in terms of, normally, you know, if you have two people coming together, if you see something like this, it's like they're made for each other. It's like they do belong together somehow. They attract each other. They fit together. There's a reason why they have a situation going on. So Poseidon, of course, is about music. It's about spirituality. It's about drugs. It's about doing things that cast some kind of illusion, that get you into your body, that get you to engage with your own drugs. So yeah, you see here that Drake has a lot of planets in Scorpio. He has Sun, Pluto, Mercury, Venus in Scorpio. That's a lot of Scorpio. Now usually when you see that, that's because the person suffered a lot of trauma in terms of a controlling environment, a suppressing environment. Like very prominent things that you see in Scorpio stallion people. Things like avoidant attachment style, enmeshment trauma, rape, abuse, very controlling parents, very unpredictable parents, a lot of chaos in the environment, divorces, violence, drugs. All these things are very prominent in a person's early childhood experience if they have something like this. Now, this stellium doesn't in particular touch anything in Kendrick Lamar's chart, except that the Plutos are on top of each other, which is of course simply because they are born less than a year apart from each other. So that's not significant in any way or any shape or form. However, what is interesting here is that you have Drake's sun in the third house. It's the third house that's very active, and third house is communication, writing, speaking. And then you have his Venus conjunction Mercury. Venus is talent in writing, speaking, because it's conjunction Mercury in Scorpio. Now Scorpio is about power, it's about control. So this person needs to have power over other people, whether that is in winning against other people in competition, or being better than other people, or proving the person's worth, if the person's worth is challenged somehow. So Drake would actually represent a figure, if he has beef with that person, that is somebody who challenges his sense of power, his sense of self-esteem. Because if Venus and Sun are both in Scorpio, and the Sun is conjunction Pluto, there's a lot of self-esteem issues. Now, it is not uncommon to have people who have narcissism, psychopathy, or some kind of other disorder like avoidant attachment style or something else when they have placements like this. Because Venus, self-esteem, and Sun, self-worth and self-image, they're in a very unstable position because Scorpio is a destabilizing influence in the chart. So any kind of conflict, any kind of drama surrounding Drake will almost certainly, almost always be about his self-esteem being threatened somehow. This is simply due to the fact that all of the energy is crystallized and focused on that area of his life. And how it's going to happen, how it's going to be triggered, is of course with a house, which is house number 3, which is house of communication, writing, speaking. So of course you can see all of this is happening right now. This is what has actually prompted me to make this video. So how does this work exactly with Drake? Like, what does Drake specifically have to do with this? Well, you look at his chart and you look at his Sun and his Venus. Because you see, to understand how one's Sun and Venus are triggered is to look at the other person whose Sun and Venus, how are they placed? Well, you see that also Drake has a lot of issues here, because his Sun is conjunction Chiron, the wounded healer, which is also a very typical placement for narcissistic abuse. A controlling or extremely violent father, or a father who has a very weak self-esteem. And the sun is not only conjunction Chiron in Gemini, which is communication, by the way, which is just like Drake in the third house, communication. The sun is also conjunction true black moon Lilith, H13. True black moon Lilith, that is what I have. So that's actually not surprising, but I see this because I kind of do like his music. I do actually listen to some of Kendrick Lamar's music. And this is why I was like, okay, I guess I'm not surprised that you have this placement. Because true black moon Lilith, that's people who had a tyrant or a controlling father, or who had some kind of other father wounds. And Lilith is somebody who plays a person that is either being abused, but it's kind of like a victim consciousness, because it is the shadow of Eve that often plays in the person's life. Eve is somebody who's always in the shadow of somebody else. So normally people like that would attract an abuser or a controller. Now, as you can see here, most of Drake's placements are about control, are about abuse. And at the same time, Kendrick's Lilith is about taking the power back, taking back control over what? Over his self-image, over his ego, the sun. So there is an ego conflict between Sun conjunction Pluto and Sun conjunction Black Moon Lilith in a chart in which both these very scorpionic energies are just made for each other. They're just attracting each other. This is very compatible energies. They're very much mirroring each other's problems. They both have the same problem. So it's like somebody that's trying to prove, no, I am the shit. I am the one who's in control, not you. I am better than you. Of course, to take control is to prove your worth, that you are better than the other person. Better how? Well, of course, this expresses through communication, because here the sun is in Gemini, and what is being communicated are very harsh words. Words that trigger the other person. Because Lilith is about triggering. Lilith is about unlocking. So it addresses and unlocks the Pluto of Drake, which is the repression around the self-image. Now, if you go online and you look into what is actually behind the beef, I think there was something going on around, what was it? That Drake said that he and Kendrick Lamar and somebody else, they're like the top 3 of artists. And then Kendrick said, no, I'm just the top me of artists or something. Like, just me, not you. And just me, not you, that's very typical. Yeah, to have this dynamic with scorpionic aspects around the sun. Okay, so I hope it makes sense. But specifically, this is about insecurities. This is about self-esteem issues. Because the sun has conjunction Chiron here. And people who have sun conjunction Chiron, they usually don't understand how to feel good about themselves. It's like nothing is ever good enough. Which is why it often creates a narcissistic wound in which only the best is going to be enough. Only the best. So the person would say, only me, not you. Which actually, technically speaking, is worse. Like if you ask me, Sun conjunction Chiron is a lot worse than Sun conjunction Pluto. Now, of course, you can argue about this, but Chiron is the most typical placement you can see in the charts of narcissists or people who have been abused quite severely. The abuse is usually worse with Chiron than it is with Pluto, and this is why there's often more insecurities around the ego. With Pluto is more about facade, putting on a good show. Like, you appear like you don't need to be the best, when secretly you want to be the best. And then somebody comes along who's not hiding the fact that they want to be the best. They're not putting on a show. Which is why also the Sun is connection Black Moon Lilith here. You see, when you bring this Lilith together with this Chiron, Chiron is, I need to be the best. Lilith is, I'm not going to hide that I need to be the best. If the placement is really conjunction the Sun, of course everybody is going to look at this person like they're crazy. Like, what do you mean you need to be the best? What's wrong with you? So what's wrong with you then is being challenged by Drake. So this is how they are playing basically into each other's traumas, which is quite interesting. But it's a very typical kind of situation. This is not unusual. So that's interesting. Anyways, let's not focus too much on these two aspects. We talked about the Sun enough. Let's talk about Venus here. Now, Drake's Venus isn't conjunction anything here. But Kendrick Lamar's Venus is conjunction Aldebaran. And this is interesting actually how it works together. Because Aldebaran is also a typical fixed star that you find in the charts prominent of people who have suffered narcissistic abuse. So this is just interesting, because Aldebaran, in my opinion, because it was worshipped by the Nazis, because you always find it in the charts of narcissists and psychopaths, Donald Trump, his Sun conjunction Aldebaran. Aldebaran is about people who, they need everything to happen now. They need everything to go quickly, like, give me what I want now. I know I deserve the best now. Why do I have to work for it? Why do I have to prove myself to you? No, I'm the best. Give me what I deserve. So this is usually what you find. Now, whether you like Kendrick Lamar or not, but that is generally the energy behind Venus. And here Venus in Scorpio on the other side with Drake is very much opposite the energy. So this Venus here is also very heavily placed, because Drake's Venus is conjunction Persephone, and it's conjunction the IC. Now the IC is about somebody who hides again. Hides what they need, what their needs are. I mean, if I didn't know any better, this is the chart of somebody who is an avoidant attachment style. Because Venus, IC is unconscious. IC is underground. Venus is what I need, what I want. What I need, what I want is underground, that's avoidance. Basically, that is an avoidant placement. I know this for a fact, because I know many people who have charts where Moon or Venus, which is the feminine, which is the mother, is on the IC. 90% of the time, either the mother was a narcissist or an avoidant. 90%. Always. It's guaranteed, basically. So this is interesting, because again, this is completely opposite, right? Drake hides what he's really trying to achieve, what he really wants, and Kendrick is like, I know I'm the best, look at me. I mean, I don't know if that's really what's happening. I'm not really paying too much attention to the beef. But that is what the placements are saying. So both people want the same thing. They both want all the fame, all the wealth, in a way. I mean, who doesn't want that anyways? But how they go about it is completely opposite. So they should really be working together. Why are they enemies? And then Venus Persephone. Persephone is Kore, the maiden. It's also called the little girl. So the little girl is on what Drake wants, which is on Venus. And I heard actually that there was some kind of there was some allegations or something around him being interested in children. There was some kind of a scandal or something, which is not surprising, because this Venus Persephone is on the IC. This is what a person hides in Scorpio: power, desire, intense desire, which is so controversial, you have to hide it. You hide it from the mother. You hide it from society. You hide what you want. And if you hide what you want from the mother enough, then what you want is stifled. It gets blocked. It gets traumatized, put in a box. And in this box, nothing is growing. And Scorpio is growth. Growth is hidden because it's on the IC. So growth is not happening. Meaning, the desire function, the pleasure function is down. Is really down. So of course, this is why it would explain why somebody would be interested in children instead of adults, or more into children than adults, because their wiring has been messed up. Okay, I hope it makes sense. So then this Venus is conjunction Mercury. So this is of course very typical for musicians as well. Mercury is on the IC, so the person is going to hide what they really think. Going to hide what they think a lot. But it's going to come out some way because it's in Scorpio. The truth always has to come out, right? So it comes out through the music in indirect ways. So there would be battles through the music, through the songs, because you couldn't communicate directly. It was not allowed to do that in the family because, again, there's conflict avoidance here. So this would of course trigger somebody like Drake, who's all about the opposite, all about speaking out and just addressing things directly. And then you want to look at Mercury. How is he doing that? Which of course is not surprising. That Mercury is conjunction Mars in Drake's chart. I mean in Kendrick Lamar's chart. So Kendrick, Mars conjunction Mercury. Communicate directly, aggressively. Versus Venus conjunction Mercury in Scorpio. Don't communicate at all. Hide it. Again, complete opposite energies. So this is in regards to the communication. This is in regards to the self-image. In regards to the self-expression. In regards to what they want and how they try to achieve it. Everything is complete opposite here. But in essence, it's really very similar energy. So then you have the North Node here in Kendrick's chart, conjunction Drake's descendant. Sorry, it's Drake's North Node is conjunction Kendrick's descendant. So that's interesting, because this is what you see typically in people who have to find a way to make peace, because they start out as enemies. Okay, if the South Node is on the ascendant is independence, ascendant is me. 7th house is other. Other is North Node, meaning it's out of my comfort zone, so I'm trying to get there, so I start out as enemies. Yeah. Okay. Let's see here. To be honest with you, the most important bits of his history I already discussed. But there is one thing I have to talk about here, which is about the finger of God. A yacht is here on Drake's Mercury. So Mercury is communication. And the finger of God is urgency. You need to communicate. So Drake, through his Sun and his Jupiter, which are both masculine, fiery planets, is activating Drake's Mercury, which is completely stifled, in a stifled position on the IC. Hide the communication. Don't say it. Don't share it. Keep it secret. So Kendrick is triggering that, activating it, creating a sense of urgency around it. Communicate now. Come on. I'm taunting you. I'm provoking you. Come at me. So there is a tug of war here happening that is showing up very clearly in the chart. So Drake is dealing with a karmic situation here. This is a karmic issue of him having to resolve his communication wounds, while Kendrick on the other side to be honest with you, his chart represents a bully, which I know is funny because they're both, you could say they're both a bit of a shit show. But I don't know if you like these people or not. I don't know anything about them. But these charts are quite heavy. Both of these charts are completely abused people. I mean, these are such abusive kind of placements. So, abusive, I mean, they've been severely mistreated. Then you have the Ascendant conjunction Nessus for Drake. Nessus is the warden of the threshold. He's about double bind situations, the Kafka trap. Check out my Nessus video if you want to understand that, but this is really somebody who hides themselves really a lot in childhood. So as an adult, it's very hard to get out of it, you know? Sun, Venus, Ascendant, Mercury, everything is completely hidden. This person's very hidden, yeah? And here Kendrick brings that out. Interesting, yeah? And of course there's so much around sexuality and abuse going on with these people. Lilith's son, don't need to talk about that. Then Mercury, Mars is on Drake's moon. Conjunction Sirius, the dog star, which is why he made the song called All the Dogs or something, which you find again prominent in people's musicians charts. Here Mercury from Kendrick is conjunction Sirius, musician placement. And this Mars conjunction moon placement you often see in people who have an abuser dynamic. Like if you see this, if you have a partner and you have Mars conjunction moon in the Synastry, get the hell out of there. I know it doesn't sound very nice. You don't need to get out of there, but it's one of the biggest Synastry red flags that you can ever see. This is really like heavy placement. So this is just, to be honest with you, this is very typical abuser dynamic. Who's the abuser? Who's the victim? To be honest with you, if I knew absolutely nothing about either of these people, I would say Drake is the victim. I know this sounds funny, because many people will be like, but Drake is the pedophile, or I don't know what the fuck people say, I don't know. But based on the Synastry alone, if I had to choose, it's quite obvious that Drake is the one who is being triggered here, activated here, to come out of his shell, to speak up, to show himself, to get vulnerable. And then he gets into a scandal, then there's scrutiny around him, and then his reputation gets ruined. Isn't that exactly what happens in narcissistic abuse? Right? I mean, you get abused, you get provoked into a reactive state, and when everybody ruins your reputation, you get into a scandal and you have a smear campaign on your hands. That's actually what happens here, and that is exactly what's showing up in the chat. Now, if you agree with this or not, okay, that's fine. But I'm just reading the energy here. I'm not, again, I don't care about either of these people. I'm not choosing any sides. However, let's say I'm completely wrong. Let's say I'm just talking shit here, in which case Kendrick would be the abused person. How does that work? Well, if Kendrick was the victim, quote unquote, if there is such a thing, then it would be because of neglect. Now, the only thing that Drake is doing in this Synastry is ignoring Kendrick. That's the only abuse I can see here. Because look, Sun Ascendant, Poseidon, Neptune energy, Moon conjunction Mars, feminine energy, again, in both water, Scorpio water, Cancer water, these are avoidant, unconfrontational, dismissive energies, feminine energies, contracted energies. And then a yacht on Mercury, where the person is just trying not to communicate, when the other person wants them to speak up. This is just Drake not really caring about Kendrick. Kendrick being upset that Drake doesn't care about him, that he's thinking, oh, who do you think you are? You think you're better than me? Drake is like, I'm just minding my business, what do you want from me? And then they get into a fight, and then Kendrick says, oh, you show your true colors now because I have provoked you and I knew you would actually, I don't know what the fuck. So yeah, I mean, how else can you read this energy? It's kind of obvious to me. You can argue about this, you can debate about this, but what is absolutely fact here is that Drake is the feminine, contracted, hiding person, and Drake is the aggressive, expansive, provoking, triggering, confronting person who's healthier. Well, sometimes it is the confronting person. Sometimes you need to get the person out of a box. And sometimes the person that gets the other out of a box is an abuser. And whoever is being pulled out of a box is an avoidant. Which is a typical dynamic also you find often. An avoidant with a narcissist. So somebody who hides in a box and who is attracting a narcissist because that's what they're used to. That's what they've always known with their father or their mother or both of them. To be honest with you, in Drake's case, it looks like both of them. The mother looks like she seeked refuge with Drake. And with Kendrick, the moon in Pisces, looks like the mother wasn't even there. So he became very, very masculine to compensate for that lack of a mother figure. While Drake became very feminine on the other hand. Yeah, this is pretty much what I see here. Very interesting. Oh yeah, of course. Yeah. So this is also interesting, the fact that Drake's ascendant is in Leo. Like on the outside, he looks masculine. He puts himself on display. He does all of these things. But behind closed doors, you have no idea what's really going on. There's lots of secrets here. And yeah, he wants the attention really badly, right? He has Ceres on the sun with Poseidon and Pluto. Ceres, by the way, is about neurosis. Neurotic issues around the self-image. Trying to control the self-image really badly, to feed the self-image, to give you energy. To gain energy through the attention. So this is somebody who always needs something going on. To have some kind of activity in which he engages with other people, with the public in some kind of way through communication. But the communication is so blocked with this Mercury on the IC. You don't even know that it's blocked. You're thinking, oh, this is a musician, this is a singer, he's putting himself out there. But if you look at the chart, that's not what's going on. This person has loads of things to say that he is not saying. And you're going to notice that in his videos, in his songs. You're going to see that he tells you what he wants you to hear. He gives you the words that are popular. He gives you the words that people are resonating with, but these are not his words. These are the words of other people. Yeah, this is a people pleaser actually. I know, it sounds funny. Ascendant in Regulus. Okay, he has the heart of a lion on the ascendant, so of course he gets very popular. But how is he going to do that? Through the sun, which is really super hidden, and then Mercury is super hidden. Yeah, interesting. He has ghostwriters writing his music for him. Of course. You see, this person has creativity blockages. Which is interesting, yeah. Where is his fifth house? Let me see, fifth house. Fifth house Neptune. Of course, fifth house Neptune. Because Neptune is about things that we are confused about. Things that are unclear. Fifth house is creativity. Fifth house is self-expression. That's exactly what's unclear here. And that is the Neptune, I mean. It's obvious, yeah? Also, Drake was the one who provoked Kendrick. Aha. Okay. So if Drake provoked Kendrick, then Drake is trying to get out more of that. But somehow, I mean, wait a second. If Drake provoked Kendrick, why did he do that? Because if you look at the chart, somehow, something must have happened that made Drake really triggered. And this trigger led to Drake provoking Kendrick, okay? Because the trigger definitely 100% happened inside of Drake, which was somehow because Kendrick was doing something and Drake didn't like that. Drake was reminded of his own blockage in communication, of his own wounding in that area. Because that area is completely... This area is very difficult because all of the planets in the house of communication are in Scorpio. Scorpio is the devil within, the dragon that we have to slay, the vulnerability that we are afraid to face, the secrets that we keep. So yeah, interesting. But in any case, I don't really want to talk more about the Synastry because, to be honest with you, I don't really care about the celebrities. I just wanted to do this because I thought it would be interesting. Because after I looked at the Synastry, I was like, this is a really good example of how two people who got abused are getting each other's shit out, so to speak. But in any case, that's the Synastry in a nutshell. So let's read this here. So what do you think about the Synastry? Did you like this video? Are you interested in a reading? Let me know down below. If you're interested in more videos like this, please leave a like and a subscribe. If you're interested in my services, you can refer to my services in the description down below. You can check out my services on my page. And if you want to have a personal reading, you can message me on Facebook or email. With that being said, thanks so much for watching and see you in the next video.